In this video, I will teach you the PowerPoint Insert tab and ribbon in depth. Let's get started. So this is one in a series of videos in which we're looking at each of the tabs in Microsoft PowerPoint. Check out all of them. But in this one, we're going to start on the Insert tab at the far left, where we find some Slides options. Here in the Slides group, I can click New Slide, and I can do that in one of two ways. I could just click where I want the new slide to appear, and then click the top part of the New Slide button. If I do that, I get another typical slide, the default slide type. However, if I click on the bottom part of this same button, it lets me choose a specific slide type. Maybe I want content with caption, quote with caption, title and caption. There's all of these options. One that I use quite often is simply blank. And so if you want just a completely blank slide without the title and the other options, that's how you would get that quickly. The bottom part of the New Slide button and blank. Now we do have some other options as well. If you select a slide and then click on the bottom part of the New Slide button, you'll see that you can also duplicate the selected slides. And so even if I have two or more slides selected, when I click that, I choose Duplicate Selected Slides, and now I get duplicates of the first two that I had selected. I'm going to undo that. Other options we have are to create new slides from an outline that maybe I produced earlier. Also, we can reuse slides. When I click Reuse Slides, it opens up recent presentations that I've accessed on this computer, and I can then select content from those slideshows and pull them into this current slideshow. So those are all very useful options that I have just inside this one button, New Slide. Next to that, we have a Reuse Slides button. So this button accomplishes the same thing as clicking on this button here. So it's a little bit redundant in this case, but as you use PowerPoint, you're going to probably be using these options quite often. Okay, let's move over to the Tables group. And for this, I'm going to go down to that blank slide that I inserted, and I'll just click on the Table button. And the way this works is very similar to how you insert a table in Microsoft Word, for example. You can just move your mouse pointer across this grid. I'm not clicking or anything like that. I'm just moving the mouse pointer, and it's outlining and creating a preview of a potential table that I could create. And in this case, my table needs just 2 columns, but I need probably 8 or 10 rows. So I'm going to go with this option. I click, and the table is inserted into my slideshow. Now I'm going to jump to this other slide just to show that in addition to drawing out your table this way, you can just click Insert Table. It gives you a pop-up, and you tell it how many columns and rows you want, and then click OK. So that's another great method for inserting a table. We also have the ability to draw a table. So by clicking Draw Table, I can simply click and drag to outline the first part of the table, and I can type in it and then just tap Tab to get additional rows in this table. I can also use this Table Design tab that appears to change some of the options of this drawn table. I'm going to undo what I've done there and going back to the Insert tab, and I want you to see that you can also pull in a table in the form of an Excel spreadsheet. When you click that, you will see something that really does resemble Microsoft Excel, and in fact, it basically is. If you look up here at the top of PowerPoint, it now has the Excel logo here, and it's now got a green bar across the top. It's like we're using Excel inside Microsoft PowerPoint. If I put some numbers into this table, I can then use the Excel formulas and functions just like I would from inside Microsoft Excel. So that is another way to add a table into PowerPoint. I'm going to undo that. Now, however you get a table into your PowerPoint presentation, what do you do next? Now that I've got this table that I inserted, I can just click at the top to add a column heading, let's say. Maybe I'll call this Mode of Transportation, and then I'll tab over and I'll put in maximum speed. Now I'm not loving the font that was chosen for me, so I'm going to click and drag to highlight those 2 cells in the table, and I'll go to the Home tab, and I can just change the font type to something I like better. And I can change this table in various ways. I'm going to click and drag to make it bigger. I want it to fill the screen a little bit better. And then I can proceed now to just type and tab, and enter the data that I want to be in the table. Give me a minute to enter that information into the table, and then I'll resume the video. So there is my completed table. And like I showed earlier, it is possible to click and drag to select your table and go here to the Table Design tab and make adjustments to the table overall. Maybe I want to change the color scheme. Maybe I'd like to have a total row that adds up the numbers. Maybe I want to just customize elements of the visual aspects of the table. I'm actually happy with this as it is, so I'm going to move on to the next group on the Insert tab, and that is Images. Let's say I'd like to add a couple of small images to this slide along with the table. I can just click here on Picture pictures, and there are 4 main ways for me to get a picture, an image of some kind, and put it onto this slide. I can insert a picture from this device, this computer that I'm working on right now. I can go, let's say, to my downloads folder, select an image that I know I have there, and then I can resize the image as needed and put it on the slide where I want it to be. Now, similar to tables, when you insert an image, a picture of any kind, you can select it and then you get a special tab that appears on the ribbon. You can use this to add all sorts of effects to your picture. You can change the drop shadow effect. You can make it kind of blurry at the edges. There's just lots of different options all across the picture format ribbon. I'm going to undo a few of those because I like how that looks right there. Other ways to insert pictures would be through a mobile device. So if I have some images on a smartphone, I can select that option, and I may be able to connect my smartphone using this QR code to this presentation, and then I'll be able to easily transfer images. Other options I have include stock images that I have access to from within PowerPoint. I'm going to search for a horse, and I would prefer that it not be a rectangular image. I would rather there not be a background at all. Sometimes it helps to search with PNG after the search term. But in this case, it didn't work. That's okay. I'll just select one of the horses that came up in the search. And then now that this horse image is on my slide, I can shrink it down if I want to. And I can also click on the image, go back to this special picture format tab, and I can try to remove the background manually. So I click on that. It looks like it's going to do a pretty good job, but I can also mark areas to keep. I would like to keep this part of the horse. And so I'm just kind of scribbling on top of those areas, and then I'll release the mouse button. And PowerPoint has restored at least part of the horse that was going to be erased. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So I can click away from the horse, and now I've got a nice image of a horse. I'll shrink it down and put it down here in the corner. Back to the Insert tab, I want you to see that in addition to the stock images, we also have access to almost the entire internet of images. This is powered by Bing, so it's like you're going to the Bing image search in your browser and doing an image search. So let's try a search term. I'll type in glider. Now I'm going to try adding PNG after glider. Notice what happened. I got images that do not have backgrounds. I'll click insert, and that helped me skip a step. Okay, so those are some really great pictures options, ways to insert pictures. There are times though when the image that you need isn't going to come up in those searches. For example, let's say I want to reference this article about Uber and some of their changes and other things. How could I get an image of this article and this headline in my presentation? Well, in the images group, I have a screenshot tool. So I can click there, and it brings up all of the available windows on my computer. These are programs and browsers that I have open right now. And this is the one that I would like to take a screenshot of. So I'll just click on it, and instantly I get a screenshot of that article with the headline. And just like any picture, I can resize this, I can put it where I want it to be, and adjust it in several ways using this picture format special tab. One of the ways I can adjust it is by cropping it. So I could click crop, and I could get rid of the top part of the browser, and then click away from the image, and I've now cropped the screenshot. Okay, back to the Insert tab. Another type of image that I can insert into my slideshow is actually not just one image, it's a whole photo album of images. And this is a fantastic feature that will empower you to create basically a slideshow or a photo album that you can browse through in your PowerPoint presentation. I have a separate video dedicated completely to this option. You should check it out. It's one of my most popular videos, so please check it out. For now, I will X out of the pop-up, and let's go here to the camera group. And this may not be in all versions of PowerPoint, but in many modern versions, you can click either on the top part of this button or the bottom to insert a cameo using your webcam. I can add the cameo to this slide only or to all of my slides in this presentation. I'm going to try just this slide, and there's the little cameo that's going to come up with my webcam. I would have to set up the webcam to make it work properly, but this is where it would appear. You can also move it to different areas just by clicking here on the Designer tab that opens up in Microsoft 365 versions of PowerPoint, and also in some other versions. I'm just going to delete that out, but that's kind of an exciting option. to add images from your webcam to your slides. Next, we have the illustrations group, and this is for more elemental kinds of visuals. So for example, shapes. I'm going to click here on my bicycle slide, and for now I don't need the designer open, so I'll X out of that. But I would like to add some shapes just to enhance this slide a little bit. So I'm going to go here to the illustrations group and click on shapes. And we have all sorts of basic shapes. We've got ovals. You can click and drag to draw out that oval. If you hold the shift key as you click and drag, you will get a perfect circle. So I'm going to put that circle here. Maybe I'll go back to the Insert tab and Shapes, and I'll draw out another oval. Holding Shift, it becomes a perfect circle. In addition to those very basic common shapes, including stars, we also have some more complex shapes. We've got arrows, we have some math symbols, flowchart options, callouts, which can be very useful in your slideshows. And these callouts, if you double click on them, you can then type right onto the callout. We also have some nice stars and banners. These are great ways to kind of draw attention to different aspects of your slides. And then finally, one of the most exciting of these shapes that you can add is the option to add action buttons. So I could put in a play button, and then I could hyperlink this button to the next slide or to the last slide or any of these other options. When I click OK, this becomes a working button. Now, I keep showing this over and over, but whenever you insert a visual of some kind, if you select that image, you do get special options. You get an additional tab and ribbon. And so if I don't want to keep using red, sometimes it's hard for people to really see red very well. So I could easily change that color to something else. Now, in addition to shapes, we also have icons, and these are just what you would expect, very simple visuals. If I do a search for motorcycle, you can see the kinds of results I get, and I can put those where I want them to be and resize them as needed. This slide is getting a little cluttered. I'm going to go back to this airplane slide, and I want you to see that we also have the option to insert 3D models. If I have a 3D model on my computer, I can just access it and insert it. In my case, I don't think I have any of those right now on this computer, so I'm going to click Stock 3D models. I'll do a search for plane or airplane, and I'll click to select a couple of these and insert them onto the slide. Then they'll appear, and I'll be able to click away and then click on each one separately to position it on the slide. And then also, not only can you position it on the slide, but you can use this tool here to rotate this 3D object. What do I want this airplane to look like on the slide? How about that? What about this jet fighter? I'm going to rotate it so that it's facing the way I want it to face, and I'll drag it where I want it to be. So even though there aren't 3D models of everything, if you find a 3D model that matches your content, it can really add some nice pizzazz to your slideshow. Next, we have Smart Art. I'm going to delete this table that I had put on this slide because I want you to see that the Smart Art options can be accessed here on the Insert tab in the Illustrations group, but they are also sometimes included on slides. So if I click here, I get the same options as I get if I click up here. Now, I have a separate video that shows the Smart Art options in Microsoft PowerPoint, so please check that out. But briefly, let me point out that you can just click on the type of smart art that you want, for example, a hierarchy chart, and then select the style and the type that you want to use. I'll click OK. So what I've chosen is an org chart with images. So here I could put in the name of the CEO of a company, and then I could click to insert a picture of that person, and then I could click to add people that report to Charles, and then put a picture of them. And you can adjust pretty much all aspects of the Smart Art graphics as needed. So definitely check out my other video on Smart Art. Going back to the Insert tab, another illustration that I can add to my presentations is charts. I would like a pie chart, and I click OK, and just a generic pie chart is added to my slide. But now I can adjust the percentages of this pie chart and also the labels. So right now it's saying sales. I'm going to change that to mode of transport, and I'll change first quarter to car, second quarter I'll change to walking, third quarter I'll change to bus, fourth quarter I'll change to train. And I'm just making these numbers up as I go, but I can just put in the data that I want charted, and the pie chart adjusts. Now, once again, notice that we're kind of using Microsoft Excel inside of PowerPoint. This is one of the nice things about having the Microsoft 365 suite or just all of the programs in Microsoft Office. I'm going to X out of the Excel element there, and let's jump back to the Insert tab. So you're probably noticing that this Insert tab and ribbon is just packed full of features and options. One reason for that is that PowerPoint ideally is a visual medium. We are not just sharing words. If you have a presentation that is primarily made up of words, get ready to have a bored audience. And to help us avoid that, Microsoft has packed this Insert tab and ribbon with all sorts of great visuals. Next, we have a button for Power BI, and I'm going to skip this one, but just know that it taps into this powerful tool so that you can bring in information from Power BI. Similar to that, we have a Forms button. Microsoft has a Forms tool for creating surveys, forms, quizzes, things like that. Here's an example of one that I created a few years ago, and I'll click Insert, and that survey can be presented to make my meeting that I'm about to present at more interactive, or I could collect responses offline. The participants wouldn't have to be there with me as they fill out this survey. If you want to learn more about Microsoft Forms, check out my other video on that topic. But for now, I'm just going to delete the form that I've added to this slide. Next, we have some links, and I'm going to jump back to the slide that had modes of transportation. I'm going to select the word walking. Just by double-clicking on it, it highlights the entire word. If I want to, I can insert a link to go with this word. Once I click link, it gives me lots of different options. I could link to an existing web page and just put in the web page here and then click OK to turn that into a working hyperlink. Another option, though, would be to link to an existing other file that's on my computer. When people click the link, it will open that Word document, PowerPoint document, whatever it might be. I can also link to a place in this document, so to a specific slide. And there are other options as well. I'm going to cancel out of this just to point out that this is one way that you can create your own custom buttons, just like this. I could turn this star, for example, into a button just by clicking it, choosing link, and then I could link to a specific slide or to a web page, click OK, and now when I present, I'll be able to click this button and it will take me to the slide that I told it to link to. Similar to that, we can insert actions. And it works very similarly. The nice thing about actions is you can make it so that the thing that triggers the action is either a mouse click or just a mouse over. You can just put your mouse over the top of the button and it will take you where you want it to go. You can create some really interesting interactive slideshows that way. We also do have the option to create a zoom, for example, a summary zoom. So I can insert those here, and it's a way to kind of zoom out and see multiple slides at once. So that's an exciting option as well. Next, let's move right along to the comments tool. If I click on comments, I get a panel that opens up on the right, and I can either type up a mention and or a comment. So I can say something like, does this slide need more context? And then I can either click this button here or hold Control and tap Enter. Now that comment is inserted here in the comments section. This is perfect for reminding myself about different things I want to consider in my slideshow, but it's also even better maybe when collaborating with others on a slideshow. If you are collaborating, you can click New to add another comment, and you can put a mention to the person that you would like to look at this comment. I type it in and click this button to mention the person along with the comment. I'm going to X out of that comment, but these comments can be especially helpful when working with others to develop a slideshow. Next, we have some text options. This text group has some very important and yet fairly basic elements that we can add to PowerPoint. Text box is one that I use a lot. If you select text box, you can add text really anywhere you need it to be. I'll just click and drag to draw out my text box, and I'll type, and there's my text box. I can then click on the edge of the text box to drag it anywhere I want it to be. I, of course, could highlight my text and go on the Home tab in the font group. I could change how that text appears, change its font type, size, color, etc. Back on the Insert tab, I can also add text in the form of a header and footer. And in this case, I'm working with the footer. So what do I want to be in the footer? Maybe the date and time, and maybe in addition to that, a name or something similar. And maybe I'll also put the slide number. That might be helpful. Once I've made those choices, I can apply this to either just this slide or to all slides in my slideshow. And there we have this footer information that will be on every slide. I'm going to undo that, but there are definitely situations when you would want to have the slide number or some of these other options in the footer. Other text options we we have include word art. You can then type your text into the word art and then click and drag and put that where you want it to be. I am not a huge advocate of word art. Sometimes it's just what you need, but other times it looks to me just a little cheesy, so I don't use that too often. Over here on the right side of the text group, we do have a few other options. We can quickly add the date and time. We can insert the slide number. And of course, we saw both of those options also in the header and footer tool here. This little button here is kind of interesting. You can insert an object. What kind of object? Well, how about a Microsoft Excel worksheet, chart, or other item? I can insert a WordPad document. There's all of these other types of documents, and I could just create them from scratch after selecting the object type that I want to add. You can also create an object from a file on your computer. So you could browse to a video that's on your computer, to a PDF that's on your computer, whatever it might be, and many of those are compatible with this, and you can insert them into your slide. Okay, we're almost done with the Insert tab and ribbon. Next to the text group, we have the Symbols group, and this is particularly useful for math teachers or others that need equations or other symbols. We have some common equations here. I suppose those are common. The Pythagorean theorem, I can add that in, the area of a circle, etc. And it's also possible to just insert a new equation. And you just type out the equation here, and if you do it right, Microsoft PowerPoint will interpret it and put the symbols in that are necessary for that equation. Now, sometimes you need something kind of similar to an equation, but not an actual math equation. In that case, symbol may be what you're looking for. There are lots of different symbols, and there's a drop-down where you can hone in on other types of symbols as well. When you find the symbol you want, you can just double-click on it, or click on it once and click Insert to add it to your presentation. Okay, our final group on the Insert tab is the Media group. Here, I can insert a video that's either on this device, or I could search online for videos or use stock videos that come with PowerPoint. So I'm going to type in vehicle and insert this video. Like I've shown before, I can resize the visual element, and I do get two special tabs for videos where you have all sorts of other options. And using this playback tab, I can choose to play the video automatically or when clicked. I can rewind it after playing, and much more. What other options do we have for inserting media? Well, we have audio that's on my computer, or I could record a new audio recording of myself. And finally, a very powerful option, screen recording. If you choose that option, PowerPoint will minimize, and then you can click and drag to select an area of the screen that you want to record, and then just click the record button, and you will be able to create a screen recording that is in a way similar to what I'm doing right now. If you want to create your own tutorials, your own demonstrations from within PowerPoint, this may be a good option for you. So that is the Microsoft PowerPoint Insert tab, and we looked at the ribbon in depth from left to right. We went through everything. These are very powerful tools. This is how you make your PowerPoint slideshow, your presentation, into something great. Not just informational, full of text. Text is important, but the Insert tab and ribbon will make it so that your PowerPoint slideshow will be effective and not just full of information. I hope you'll check out the other videos in this series, both for Microsoft PowerPoint, but also Microsoft Excel, and I also have similar videos for Microsoft Word. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this tutorial to be helpful. If you did, please like, follow, and subscribe. And when you do, click the bell and you'll be notified when I post another video. If you'd like to support my channel, the best way to do that is to become a channel member. You could also click the thanks button below the video. You could support me through my Patreon account or by buying channel merch, and you'll see information about those options in the description below the video.